Welcome back. Summer is here and it's about to get real hot, and it's time to put your pet's safety at the forefront. Here to tell us how you can do just that and keep your furry friends safe this hot season is our friend Ginger Guttner. Ginger, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
There's so many things that we take for granted, and there's so many things that pet owners do wrong. Now that it's hot out there, we always forget that not only can people get heat stroke and heat exhaustion, but so can our pets.
And frankly, they'll probably get heat stroke before you do because they don't cool down the way we do. They don't sweat. And so, I mean, I think these days we shouldn't have to say this anymore, but don't leave your pet in a car. I wouldn't even do it with the air running just because it's just not a good idea in general. But certainly don't leave them in the car when you're going to turn it off. And even if you're just running in for a few minutes, it can still be very dangerous.
Right. Even with the windows open, that's still not a good idea.
Not a good idea.
Now, what about, say, grooming? Now, we were talking about this in the break, that maybe you could cut your dog's hair a little bit shorter, but you don't want to go too short.
You don't want to go too short, and you certainly don't want to groom them if they've never been groomed before, if they're not used to it. And I wouldn't do it yourself. I'd have somebody do it that really knows what they're doing. And there are some dogs, especially like white dogs, that they can get sunburned if if their skin is exposed. So you have to be careful.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the other things we were talking about is another mistake. We see people, they take their dogs for a jog. Now, this is something that maybe they can get away with earlier in the day, but definitely not in the middle of the day.
Definitely not in the middle of the day. As I said, they don't cool down the way we do. When they pant, excessive panting is a sign of heat stroke. Vomiting, if their gums change color, if they're just very lethargic. If you see any kind of those things, you need to go to your veterinarian immediately. But I wouldn't even jog early evening, right? It's still hot. And it's not even just about the heat of the day, it's about the heat of the pavement.
Right.
And so their pads can get burned.
Yeah, we actually have a graphic that we always show here. The asphalt gets to 140 degrees quickly in the summer, the concrete at 125. So we always tell them, if you're barefoot and you can't handle it,
neither can they. And there are little booties that you can get.
Oh, really?
Your dog has to get used to it. A lot of people use them, not down here, but like up north in the winter, because it helps with grip on icy sidewalks. Not really a problem for us, but it can help, I mean, with the hot pavement, but they're gonna have to get used to them, just like you would break in shoes, kind of the same thing.
So if they're taking them not for a jog, but say they're just taking them out to use the bathroom, so they're gonna take them on a casual walk, should they try to keep the dog more, I guess, on the grass rather than?
Try to keep them on the grass. Again, I would put your hand on your driveway, on your sidewalk, just to see how hot it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're not just talking about the heat, but now we're coming up to the 4th of July.
Oh, fireworks.
You and I have dogs that are, some dogs, they're very cooperative in the thunder and the fireworks, but what should folks do for the pets that get scared in the fireworks?
So if you have a dog that you know is going to be frightened by fireworks, you can talk to your veterinarian. There are certain medications that can be given to kind of keep them calm. If you don't want to do that, or maybe you're just not comfortable with that, putting them in a room where they're very comfortable. Like my dog's favorite place happens to be on my bed up against my pillow.
Right.
Not my husband's pillow, but mine. But I would make sure she had access to that room. Maybe turn on the television or a radio just to kind of muffle the sound. There are things we talked about, like the thunder jacket.
Yeah, I know you can't endorse. I understand.
But I would just talk to your veterinarian to see if that's something they would recommend.
Okay, and one more thing, if they don't have a thunder jacket or anything, sometimes folks make the mistake of medicating their dog with something like Benadryl. You wouldn't recommend?
While dogs can take some human medications, you should absolutely speak to your veterinarian about it first. It's not so much the medication itself, it's the amount.
Right.
Because our weights are very different from our pets, and those instructions are for adults, and that weigh 100, 200 pounds.
Right, and you were saying in the break, their weight can vary from a couple of grams all the way.
Well, at the veterinary school, we see animals that can weigh 20 grams. We see some that can weigh 4,000 pounds.
Huge difference.
Big difference.
It's a big difference.
And they don't metabolize everything the way we do. So just speak to your veterinarian if you have questions.
Absolutely. That's great advice, Ginger. We appreciate you coming on the show. And now we're going to have more on this on our WAFB webpage as well. Stick around. We're going to be right back.